Hi, my name's Joanna, I'm 32, and I think I've made a terrible mistake. Not the kind you fix with flowers or a phone call, the kind that curls under your skin and makes the mirror flinch. It's been 17 days since I saw him, since I let him walk back into my life like a ghost with perfect timing. Everyone in Craven Falls thinks I've lost it. Maybe they're right, but when your past knocks, wearing a face that should have burned with the rest of it, you open the door, don't you? Before we go on, take a breath, get comfortable. This isn't the kind of story you half listen to while folding laundry. If you're still here, maybe hit the like button or subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And when it's over, tell me in the comments. What would you have done if it were you instead of me? I'll be reading. Craven Falls wasn't the kind of town people came back to. You were born here, worked the local bank, married someone from high school, and either drank yourself into early retirement or died mowing the lawn. The most exciting thing that happened last fall was a runaway goat on Main Street. And yet, 3 weeks ago, Dave Solder walked into Miller's Market like time hadn't swallowed him whole. I was buying canned tomatoes, the dull kind, store brand for chili I never got around to making. And there he was by the freezer aisle, staring at a box of waffles like he didn't recognize them, or like he didn't know what hunger even felt like anymore. He didn't see me, or maybe he did, but chose not to react. I left without the tomatoes. Dave was supposed to be dead. That's not dramatic, it's just fact. 10 years ago, the textile plant caught fire. They never found his body, just a melted wedding ring no one could place and half a boot. They ruled it an accident, said he was last seen working a late shift, but anyone who knew Dave, really knew him, could feel it in their bones. That fire wasn't just fire, and Dave wasn't just missing. He was gone, until he wasn't. I didn't tell Judd right away. My husband doesn't do strange. If I brought up ghosts, he'd hand me chamomile and tell me to sleep it off. He's good at that, muting things until they die. But then Dave showed up again. First at the post office, then 2 rows behind me in church, then standing across the street from our house like it was on his list of errands. He never approached, never waved, just watched. The thing is, it wasn't just him. Things started to change around the house. The attic door creaked open at night. I smelled smoke when there was no fire. My cat, Toby, refused to go near the hallway mirror. And my classroom, the place that used to feel like my sanctuary, started to feel off. Cold in the corners. My handwriting showing up on notes I hadn't written. Last night, I found a photo tucked inside my old jewelry box. I hadn't opened that thing in years. It was burned at the edges like it had been through a fire. Me, Dave, and someone else. Someone whose face is blurred, not from age or damage, but like memory refused to hold them. It's probably nothing. That's what I told myself. But tonight, I'm going back to the market. Same time, same aisle. If Dave is real, I need to hear it from his own mouth. And if he's not, then what the hell is following me home? The first time I noticed it, I was in the middle of grading spelling tests. My 3rd graders had gone home, the sun already beginning its lazy descent behind the pines, and I was alone in my classroom, the kind of quiet that usually settles my nerves. But something was wrong. The air felt thick, like it had weight. My pen slipped from my fingers mid-word, and when I leaned down to pick it up, I saw them. Words scrawled faintly across the bottom of the whiteboard in smudged black marker. Remember who you are. Not in my handwriting. Not in anyone's from this classroom. I wiped it away without thinking. Chalked it up to some leftover from the afternoon activity. But it sat in the back of my head like a splinter all evening. The next day, someone, or something, had moved my desk chair. Not slightly. It had been dragged to the opposite wall, and in the window, a handprint, on the outside, from the 2nd floor. When I told Judd, he laughed. Sounds like you need a new janitor, Joe. But his eyes lingered a second too long, as if something in him was watching the same shadows I was, and just didn't want to name them. At home, the weirdness followed me. The kitchen light flickered every time I filled a glass of water. I changed the bulb, twice. Still happened, and not just flickers. Short, pulsing flashes like Morse code, or warnings. One night, I stood in front of the microwave, reheating leftover lasagna, and I saw it. In the reflection. Dave. Behind me. Not moving. Just standing in the hallway, his silhouette sharp in the metallic door. When I spun around, nothing. But the air still smelled faintly of burnt cloth. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the living room with Toby curled like a question mark beside me, flipping through an old yearbook. Dave's picture was still there, but it felt wrong somehow, like it had been reprinted by someone who'd only half remembered him. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The caption under his name, most likely to disappear. Funny back then. Now? Not so much. I finally cracked and texted him. I don't even know how I had his number. Maybe from an ancient group thread. All I wrote was, "I saw you. Please tell me what's happening." No response. But at exactly 2:13 a.m., I got a voicemail. No words, just static and something in the background. Breathing. The next morning, a note waited under the welcome mat. Folded once. No envelope. No name. The house breathes wrong. The diner off Route 7 hadn't changed in 15 years. Still smelled like maple syrup and over-fried bacon. The booth cushions still split in the exact same spots. Even the waitress, Margot, had the same dead-eyed mascara and too loud laugh. I slid into the corner booth by the window. Dave was already there. He looked worn. Not old exactly, just thinner, hollowed. Like something had been scooped out of him in pieces. His eyes weren't sunken, but they didn't shine. Like the light inside was flickering. Still, that same scar ran down the left side of his face. New, raw, jagged like glass. It hadn't been there 10 years ago. "Thanks for coming," I said. I sounded braver than I felt. Dave didn't smile. Didn't think I had much choice. We sat in silence until Margot brought us 2 coffees, mine black, his untouched. He kept staring at the glass of water, like it might speak first. "You left without saying anything," I said finally. "Everyone thought you died. I thought—" "I did." His voice cut across mine like a dull blade. I blinked. "What?" "I didn't come back, Joe," he said. "I got dragged back." He said it like a fact, like traffic or taxes. I waited. Nothing. "What happened that night?" I whispered. "At the plant?" He shifted. His hands, scarred, knuckles dark, clenched around the edge of the table. "Something got out. Something we shouldn't have touched. Me, Cal, and Judd." "Wait, Judd was there?" He nodded, eyes on the water again. "He never told you?" "No." A flicker passed over his face. Grief or guilt? Maybe both. "There was a pact," he said slowly, like the words resisted. "Not some creepy ritual crap, just something we thought would help. Keep us from ending up like our dads, stuck here, broke, angry. But that night, Cal lost control. Fire caught too fast. I stayed behind. You were supposed to forget." "I didn't." He looked at me then. Really looked. That's the problem. Something behind the counter cracked. Margot didn't flinch. No one turned. Like the sound existed only for us. Dave pulled something from his coat and slid it across the table. A small box, old, wooden, stained, dark. I opened it. Inside, an old photo. Me, Dave, and someone else. A teenage boy. Half his face blurred like fogged glass. I didn't recognize him. "Who is that?" I asked. Dave didn't answer. He was staring past me now, out the window, at nothing. "He's the reason the house breathes wrong," he murmured. And he never left. That night, I locked every door, turned off every light, sat in the kitchen with Toby pressed against my thigh like he could hold the world steady. The house didn't care. At 3:08 a.m., the attic door opened by itself. I heard it, that slow, dragging creak, and I didn't move. Just gripped the mug so hard my hand shook. Judd didn't stir upstairs, or maybe he was pretending. By morning, the smell of smoke clung to my clothes like perfume. My students noticed. A girl named Lila raised her hand during morning reading and said, Miss Larkin, your eyes look like ash. I laughed. It came out wrong. Too high, too loud. That same afternoon, the principal called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable, hands folded too tightly on the desk. We've had a few concerns, he said. Some parents say you've been talking strangely to the kids, saying things that don't make sense. I haven't. There's a video, he added, almost like an afterthought. He turned the laptop toward me. There I was, standing in front of the whiteboard, speaking. Except the words weren't English. They weren't anything I recognized. Just guttural syllables, low and rasping, as if spoken by someone wearing my face from the inside out. I don't remember this, I whispered. Maybe take the rest of the week, he said. Back home, I tore through boxes in the hall closet, looking for something, anything, that might explain what was happening. I didn't even know what I was looking for. And then I found it. A crumpled stack of notebook pages, shoved behind an old shoebox. My handwriting, but the words weren't mine. Fragments, journal entries, all describing things I had no memory of. Lines like, he kissed me behind the furnace again. And, I told Judd it was over, but I lied. Over and over, the name, Cal. That same name Dave had whispered at the diner. I pressed the paper to my chest. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Upstairs, I found Judd sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling his phone. He looked up slowly. What's Cal's last name? I asked. He stared at me. Why? I found a photo and a diary. Silence. You said you didn't know Dave was alive, but you were there that night, weren't you? More silence. Thicker this time. I don't, he began. But then he stopped. His eyes shifted to the nightstand. A small silver pendant sat there. Oval. Scorched. The same one Dave had given me the night before the fire. I burned that thing. I know I did. But here it was. Back in the house. Back in Judd's hands. I woke up to the sound of the kettle whistling. It was 4:03 a.m. The kitchen light was on. Toby wasn't on the bed. The hallway smelled like warm metal and something sharper, like scorched rosemary. When I came downstairs, Judd was sitting at the table in his gray hoodie, eating eggs like it was the most ordinary morning of our lives. You're up early, I said. He didn't look up. Didn't sleep. I stayed by the doorway. Where did you get the pendant? I asked. He paused, swallowed. It was mailed to me, no return address, showed up a week before Dave came back. You didn't think that was worth mentioning? He finally looked at me. And his eyes were not the Judd I married. They were someone else's, familiar but further back in time, like something crawling forward from a dream I couldn't finish. I didn't know how to explain, he said. At first, I thought it was a prank. Then he started showing up, watching the house. You talked to him. He nodded slowly. He said you were remembering, that it would start with the house breathing differently, that I needed to help you forget again. I backed up. What does that mean? Forget what, Judd? He stood, the chair sliding back with a scrape that made Toby hiss from somewhere under the couch. Judd held up both hands, not in defense, but like he was offering something invisible. You weren't supposed to carry it. The deal was, you love him, you let it happen, and we walk away clean. But you didn't let go. You buried it. That's why it's waking up. What's waking up? I snapped. He opened his mouth, then stopped, closed it again, looked down. I don't think it's a what anymore, he whispered. I think it's you. I grabbed my coat and left without another word. The air outside was heavy and cold, like it had been held underwater too long. I drove across town to the edge of the woods and banged on the door of the one person I swore I'd never visit. Miriam Carmichael, town herbalist, rumored psychic, professional outcast. She opened the door before I knocked the second time. I've been expecting you, she said, stepping aside. Something's moving behind your eyes. Inside, her house was full of herbs and clocks that didn't tick. The windows were all covered with green fabric. She poured tea into a chipped mug and said calmly, "Souls that survive fire wear scars you can't see." The tea was bitter. I drank anyway. At dawn, I returned home. Under the welcome mat again was a folded note. Same ink, same handwriting. This time it said, "He never left. He just found a better way in." The next morning, I found soot in my eyes. Not crust, not mascara, actual soot. Black, powdery smudges clinging to my lower lashes like fingerprints from somewhere I hadn't been yet. I blinked hard into the bathroom mirror, but the mirror didn't blink back. That's not a metaphor. My reflection was just a second too slow, like it was deciding what to do with me. I didn't go to school. I didn't call in. The voicemail from the principal was short, concerned but not surprised. "Take the time you need." He didn't say come back. That afternoon, I stood in the backyard with a shovel, digging. I didn't know for what. Miriam met me on the porch before I even knocked. "You're going back, aren't you?" she asked, like I'd already said yes. The factory loomed like a dead god on the edge of town. Rusted steel bones, windows like blinded eyes. They'd boarded it up after the fire, but someone, maybe Dave, maybe not, had pried a hole in the east wall just big enough for a body. Inside, it smelled like wet stone and old teeth. The silence wasn't empty. It pressed against my skin like breath from a mouth too close. I stepped over scorched floorboards, my flashlight tracing the burn patterns like veins. The deeper I went, the colder it got, until the cold stopped being temperature and started being something else. In the center of what used to be the boiler room, I found them. The marks. A circle drawn in ash and chalk. Symbols I didn't recognize, though part of me did. It felt like muscle memory, like reading a language I didn't know I could speak. In the middle of the circle, scattered petals, black feathers, a single tooth. The air shifted, and then I heard it, my own voice, calling from the far wall in a whisper I hadn't spoken. I turned. A mirror. Tall, cracked, its frame warped by heat. I moved closer. It didn't show me. It showed three of us. Me, Dave, and Cal. Cal wasn't blurred anymore. His face was full and wrong, too symmetrical. His smile didn't move his eyes. They looked like mine. I stumbled back and the reflection didn't follow. I ran. Outside, I collapsed by the chain-link fence, retching air that felt like smoke. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from a blocked number. I pressed play. "Joe," Dave's voice rasped. "I'm sorry. I didn't know what Judd was offering. I thought it would just keep you safe, but he gave it shape. Cal's not dead. He moved in. That house, it was his door. And you were the key." My hand went numb. "You have to burn it again," Dave continued, "before it finishes stitching itself into you, before you're just skin it wears." The message cut out. I looked up, and behind the fence, across the empty lot, someone was watching. Not Dave, not Judd, Cal, wearing my smile. Sunday morning. Craven Falls Town Square was buzzing with church dresses, lawn chairs, and folding tables stacked with too sweet pie. The laundromat sat in the middle of it all, buzzing machines, detergent in the air, fluorescent lights that made everything feel just a little too awake. I didn't come for fresh linens. I came for blood. Judd stood near the back, folding a shirt that wasn't his. Dave leaned against the wall by the soda machine. And Cal, he was already inside me, curling like smoke in my throat. I stepped through the door and the machines all hiccuped at once. One sharp stop and then whir back into rhythm, but offbeat. People kept talking outside. They didn't know what was about to crack open. I pointed at Judd. "You lied to me. You let me rot in that house while he stitched himself in behind the walls." Judd stiffened, eyes darting to Dave. "Don't do this here." "Why not?" I shouted. "Everyone loves a Sunday confession." Margot from the diner paused mid-spin cycle, holding a mesh bag full of socks. "Tell them, Judd," I said, louder now. "Tell them how you sold my memories for a clean future." His face went white. Dave moved, but I held up a hand. "No, I want him to say it." Judd swallowed. "It wasn't like that. You thought I could be overwritten," I snapped. "Rewritten like a dryer sheet. But Cal isn't a stain, is he? He's mold. He grows. The machines began to shake. Mildly at first, then harder, like the spin cycle hit an unholy RPM. One of them slammed open mid-wash, spewing black water across the tiles. Gasps. A little girl screamed as socks floated in the murk like drowned things. Margot dropped the mesh bag. Dave stepped between us. "Joe, you need to leave. It's taking hold faster now." "I'm not leaving," I said. "I'm finishing this." Cal was in the mirrors again. The detergent doors, the chrome reflections. My face staring back at me but smiling wrong. Wider. Deeper. Then Judd did the one thing he shouldn't have. He stepped forward and grabbed my arm. The air snapped. All the machines stopped. The mirror cracked, and my mouth opened, but the voice wasn't mine. "He was bigger than you in every way," it said. Low, cruel, not just a voice, but a performance. Mocking, weaponized. The crowd outside went silent. Judd let go, stunned. Dave whispered, "It's here." Cal's face stared back from every reflection. I turned to the window, placed my palm against the glass, and said, "Then let them see it." I ran. Not away. Toward the place where the shadow first took root. The textile factory rose from the earth like a memory I wasn't sure I wanted. Windows cracked like mouths. The sky above bruised purple with the weight of something unspoken. I didn't bring a flashlight this time. I didn't need one. The building knew me now, and I knew her, because that's what Cal really was. Not a boy, not a ghost. A form, a voice that never had flesh until someone handed it mine. And I had, years ago. In fire and silence. The old boiler room pulsed with heatless air. The chalk circle still there, but distorted, melted, redrawn, refed. The box Dave had given me was waiting in the center, perfectly placed, like I'd left it there myself. I stepped inside the circle, the air folded. Then came Dave, quiet, shoulders hunched like a man returning to his own funeral. He didn't say anything, just stood in the doorway like he'd done 10 years ago. "You let it happen," I said. He nodded. "Because you asked me to." The mirror behind me, yes, another mirror, rippled. And she came. Me, but not. My smile, but hungrier. My eyes, but starved of light. The shadow wearing my skin stepped from the glass like it had been practicing the whole time. "You wanted more," it said. "You begged for it. Love that burned. Passion that swallowed. You lit the fire. I just made sure it stayed warm." I clenched my fists. "You're not me. I'm the version you buried under wife and teacher and quiet dinners. I'm the one who didn't apologize for wanting everything." Outside, thunder cracked. The building trembled. Dave stepped forward. "Joe, finish it." I opened the box. Inside, the heart, red-threaded, silent, waiting. "I can't kill her," I whispered. "You don't have to," Dave said. "You just have to stop feeding her." The shadow hissed. "You kill me. You kill everything real about you." I reached into the box, fingers around the heart. It pulsed once, just enough to make me hesitate. And then I said it. "I'm done giving you breath." I threw it into the rusted furnace behind me. The moment it hit metal, the air screamed. Not noise, emotion, rage, grief, hunger, regret. The mirror shattered, the walls cracked, the floor buckled. I fell, and Dave caught me. We stumbled out of the building as flames, not fire but light, poured from every crack in the brick. Behind us, the shadow howled once more and was gone. I turned to Dave. "Did we end it?" He didn't smile, but he looked free. "I think you just started something better." 3 months later, the mirror in my hallway still hasn't been replaced. Not because I can't afford it, I just don't need it anymore. My new place is quiet, 2 towns over, near the edge of a lake that holds the sunrise like a secret. It's small, breezy, smells like pine and peace. Toby has 3 favorite windows now. He rotates between them like shifts. Judd never followed. Dave stopped writing. And I'm okay with that. The house on Maple Drive was sold to a family with twin boys and a Labrador named Pickle. They painted over the water stains, knocked out the attic staircase. I hope they never hear the walls breathe. I hope the breathing stopped. Sometimes in dreams, I still see Cal, usually in places that should feel safe. The grocery store, the back of a church, a classroom. But it's always the same moment. He's about to say something, and I wake up just before he does. Therapy helps. So does Miriam, who visits every other Friday with strange teas and stories too heavy to be fiction. She tells me souls like mine don't disappear. They change address, become quieter, smarter, more careful with doors. My job now? I work at the library. Nothing dramatic. Cataloging, checking out paperbacks to retirees and restless teens. But there's comfort in silence when you know how loud the inside of your own head can be. Today, a little girl handed me a drawing, crayon and construction paper. It was a picture of me, hair messy, cat in arms, standing under a full moon. The caption said, "Miss Larkin is a moonkeeper. She keeps the dark things from leaking out." I didn't cry, but something inside me unknotted. Before bed, I light a single candle. Not because I'm afraid of the dark anymore, but to remind myself I made it through. I open my journal and write. The house doesn't breathe anymore, but I do. Outside, the lake turns silver. The wind rustles pine needles like soft applause, and in the hallway where the mirror once lived, only light remains.